So that's number 10, and we're grateful for it. You folks that are watching, Firepower Army have turned this into a very successful show. And I don't know what your experience is, but when I'm on the road, Todd, people come up and tell us how much they are enjoying the show everywhere we go. We
That's
never
right.
dreamed it would be what it is now, and I believe it's going to be even greater. But what do you say, my friend?
I agree with you. Everywhere we go, people come up, many of you, and we thank you. We love when you do that and share that you are an avid supporter and viewer of this show, and you're part of the Firepower Army. And Mario, I really believe the evangelists of today, this is another layer of how we can speak to folks and get the message out and share the good news of Jesus. So the Lord has put his favor on the broadcast, and we couldn't do it without him. So I'm extremely thankful. I'm also thankful. I think I lost a little bit of weight since that first show. So my wife's probably thankful for that too, but that's always a good thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just glad the shirt still fits. And so that will be the one out of the 10 that we'll say the least about, and we're grateful to you for it. But to show you what number 9 is, we're going to roll the tape right now. This is number 9.
The Teamsters Union said Wednesday they won't endorse any U.S. presidential candidate for the first time since 1996. That's despite a majority of members backing Donald Trump over Kamala Harris in polls. A recent poll the Teamsters released Wednesday shows 59.6% of its members preferred the Republican candidate, compared to 34% for Democrat Harris. The union counts some 1.3 million members, working as everything from truck drivers and airline pilots to zookeepers. They have endorsed Democrats in every presidential contest since the year 2000. However, Teamsters President Sean O'Brien made a high-profile appearance at the Republican National Convention backing Trump. He told Fox News the union's decision to decline an endorsement came after they, quote, couldn't get solid commitments on our core issues. A Teamsters executive board endorsement could be important to either candidate in the November election. It's seen as a potential factor in a handful of battleground states that may decide the results, including Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, where union membership is strong. Speaking to reporters in New York, Trump responded to the Teamsters' decision to not endorse a candidate by saying, "It's a great honor. They are not going to endorse the Democrats. That's a big thing." Most major unions have endorsed Harris, including the United Auto Workers Union. The AFL-CIO, which represents 60 unions and 12.5 million workers, endorsed Harris in July.
That was a big deal, and it is number 9 on our list. Go ahead, Todd. What do you think? Why did we pick it as number 9?
Well, that was the dominoes started falling. I mean, that's such a big deal. And Donald Trump understands that. President Trump understands that because, like they said, back till 1996, I mean, this has been a group that's been in the tank for the Democrats. And all of a sudden, no support. They didn't get what they wanted from the Democrat candidate. And I don't think she realized how big of a deal that was because you called it out, Mario. You said this is a big deal. And when that gentleman spoke at the RNC, that was groundbreaking. That was next level. I mean, we'd never seen anything like that. So I think that it did factor into especially Pennsylvania and some of the states where there's a lot of factory workers and union workers. And so that was one of the dominoes, one of the first dominoes that fell in the election cycle.
And to me, it showed that the polls were wrong.
Yep.
Because when they said how many in the Teamsters Union favored Trump over Kamala Harris, the real story is not that they didn't endorse her, in my opinion. It's how many of the members of the union favored Trump over her. Here's a Democratic stronghold, and nearly 2/3 of the voting body wanted Trump over the Democrat. And as you said, the dominoes began to fall because then Washington Post said, we're not going to endorse Kamala Harris or any presidential candidate, then the LA Times, then several other newspapers. So it was really clear at that moment that something was going on, that Trump was attracting voters outside of the Republican base. And that, my friend, was a true act of God. And I think it's very underappreciated. I was actually going to move it higher, but I believe where we have it is just right. And I think that we need to understand that that was the first inclination that, in my mind, this was going to be a landslide. It was just too big a deal, right? Don't you agree?
100%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The folks that know, and this is where it unraveled. It started unraveling for the Democrats, because these were people that were guarantees in the last couple of elections. I mean, it wasn't even, I think they took them for granted. And what it shows too is President Trump is pro-business, pro-industry. I mean, these folks understand, he gets it. He's going to position them to be much more successful. And I think this is where a lot of folks are, Mario, is they're like, look, the Democrats, the globalist policies, they don't help us. They don't benefit the workers.
No.
They don't benefit the blue collar people. And so everybody was feeling the pinch in their purse, in their spending, and their shopping. And they said, no, this is not going to work. And so, yes, I believe you were really keen on this, because you spoke about this before anybody else. And I remember listening to what you said about it, and you were spot on.
You know, and the thing that I thought about it, that again, I think people were missing, is that's when I knew that Trump was the candidate for the working class. That shift in the narrative, which the Democrats had had a stronghold for decades, claiming they were the party of the working class. That's when I knew something's going on here. All this talk about abortion, that's the other thing. Oh, I knew that when the Teamsters Union did not endorse Kamala Harris, I knew that abortion was not the number one issue. And like I said in the blog, more women wanted groceries than wanted abortions.
That's
and
right.
The Democrats were slow to realize that. And to their own demise, they missed the fact that it was inflation. And by virtue of that, the fact that they believed that the open borders were costing them jobs, and that they felt the Democratic power structure, the ruling elite party, cared more about illegal immigrants than they did working class Americans. And I think that's what sunk it. So now we did 10 and 9. And so we're going to roll the tape on number 8. What is number 8 thing we're thankful for?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Okay, think about this, Todd. I'm going to ask you a question. Get ready, buddy.
Okay.
Tulsi Gabbard was good news, not for what she did during the election, but what she's going to do during the presidency. And what I want to identify her as number 8 is because she's going to be a powerhouse in the Trump team. And she is a existential threat to the left. And I think you saw it in that video. She so dismantled Kamala Harris in exchange that she dropped out of Kamala Harris dropped out of the race not long after that. She was the most disliked. That's why we know it was an absolute puppet show that she was ever chosen, coronated as the replacement for Biden. But when I'm saying that Tulsi Gabbard in the intelligence community is going to be an articulate and powerful voice. And you saw it in that video. And what I think it does is kills Mark Cuban and his insane remark that Mr. Trump does not ever have intelligent women around him. And we sure saw that. Go ahead, Todd. What do you think about Tulsi?
Yeah, well, President Trump has the most women. I mean, he has a cabinet full of intelligent women. So I think women saw through that. But Tulsi Gabbard's articulate. She served our country. She was a Democrat congresswoman from Hawaii, I think it was. But, you know, that was her moment, in my opinion, Mario, where she became a star. I mean, that was the death blow, if you will, for the Harris campaign in that election cycle. She couldn't go beyond that because it was so much truth. And I think that's where she really became a star. And what I appreciate and admire, I don't agree 100% with Tulsi Gabbard's policies, but what I appreciate about her, she seems to be a truth seeker, and she spoke truth even when it was unpopular. And it's cost her. It's cost her her party. You know, her party basically tried to oust her, but she survived because the folks see that her intent, I believe, is to stand for what's right. And now she's going to be in charge of the DNI, which that's huge. I mean, this is, and they're trying to say on all these, you know, MSDNC and all these channels that, you know, she's not, you know, qualified. But the deal is she's more qualified, in my opinion, than a lot of these other people that have been in previous administrations. I mean, what about these men that thought they were women? I mean, that's what about the qualifications there? I mean, look at the last cabinet appointees from the Biden, you know. So, I mean, this is a woman's articulate. She's smart. She's brilliant. And she served our country, by the way. And so I'm interested to see how this all pans out. But I like her.
You know, and the other thing I think that she's going to be is an extension of Donald Trump's doctrine to stay out of needless wars.
That's right.
And she's going to uncover the connection between the globalists, the military industrial complex, and the moles who are embedded in our intelligence community. She's going to go after them. And to me, it's going to keep us out of wars. And that's why I'm excited that she's on the team, and I think she's going to be a phenomenal contribution. Now, we're at number 7, and the video isn't going to tell you what number 7 is about, but we're going to run it, and then we'll tell you what it's about. So here, coming up, is number 7 of the thing we are most thankful for in 2024.
Only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice.
So J.D. Vance, that's what that's about. That's not J.D. Vance, but that demonstrates this friend of school shooters, of course, was a flub. But what it demonstrated is the debate skills and the incredible ability to dismantle false arguments in J.D. Vance. And you and I remember the day that you called me and you were hoping it was somebody else. That the day that Trump picked J.D. Vance, I was dancing in the living room.
That's true.
Excited. And you had a different opinion than mine on that. You wanted somebody.
He grew on me. He grew on me. I mean, I trusted President Trump. I figured there was probably a reason why he picked him, but, you know, he grew on me. You know, we were looking for, I think Ben Carson was in the running and a few others. And, you know, we like Mr. Carson. He's very man of integrity, loves the Lord. But I was thinking maybe he should have picked a woman or, you know, somebody more diverse. But the truth of the matter is he picked the right guy, because that debate, he shined. He was a star, and he was so, I mean, he is an articulate man that just gave it to, oh my goodness, it was done. That was another moment where another domino fell. And that's what we saw. And I think, Mario, it was the prayers, because the church stepped up. We have to admit, the church stepped up in this election cycle and prayed, probably unlike anything I've seen in my lifetime. Really prayed. I mean, I know so many people had prayer calls and events and different gatherings and opened the churches and had all kinds of prayer meetings, including what we did at our church. And I really believe God responded to the prayers of the saints. So what was happening is we were watching one domino fall. You know, Tulsi Gabbard coming over. That was bigger than most of us realized, because she flipped teams. And, you know, she came over. That was big. And then this debate, that was a huge one, because a lot of people most people don't watch the vice president debate, but this election cycle they did. And I think it had lasting consequences.
It was a brilliant choice to choose Vance for a couple of other reasons. One is he knows how to verbally dismantle CNN, MSNBC, And whenever he was on legacy media, whether it's ABC,
Oh, man.
CBS, they would throw him these gotcha questions and he would just eviscerate them. He would neutralize them. And it was interesting how he would turn the tables when he was being interviewed and look at the interviewer and say, you know what you're doing right now? You know why people don't trust you and you don't have the audience you once had, etc. He was like a more polite version of Trump, but just as devastating in his debate skills. That's number one. Number two is, and this is big, folks, he's presidential.
Yes.
You know what I mean, Todd?
Yes.
He's presidential.
That's
Go
right.
ahead.
When you say he's like a Trump, he's saying the content of what he's saying is very similar, same message, but he's got that, orator, politician type, where Trump's not a politician. He's just a New Yorker, but he's amazing. We love him. But, his speaking skills probably aren't what people are used to from a candidate, but he's got that. JD Vance has that. So he's still packing the same truth, but he's doing it in a real articulate way. Yeah.
We can't have Trump for more than 4 years. And J.D. Vance already looks like he is the presupposed nominee for president in 2028 in the Republican Party.
Right.
The man is going to sit there and get groomed by the best that ever was, Donald Trump. Think about that.
No.
This guy loves God. This guy is pro-Christian. He's articulate, and we're going to hear from him. The potential exists for 12 years of an era in American politics of conservatism and prosperity, energy independence, and border security. That's an incredible thought, isn't it? Think about it, because don't you see him as basically the front runner for the next presidential election?
Absolutely. I mean, as long as he, stays loyal and plays his cards right, which I think he will. I think President Trump is, like you said, is a great mentor, and that America first, what needs to be done. I don't think people are going to tolerate rhinos anymore. I think that rhinos are going to be, they're going to be, they're going to get rid of them. I mean, all these PACs, and there's a lot of power behind this movement, and they're not going to tolerate these rhinos. And so they're all kind of put on notice right now. I think even with the Gates nomination, even though that didn't end up going through, what it did was it shows President Trump what senators and what congressmen are going to be loyal. And I think that it exposed some folks. So maybe Trump used that for that. I don't know. But, there was an expose even in that appointment, because there were folks that were coming out and trying to undermine President Trump, and now he knows who those people are. So it's just interesting. I think that era of the Romneys and those types of people, they're not going to be tolerated by the American people anymore. So people are looking for, like, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to actually do what you said you're going to do? Are you going to fight for the American people? And that's what President Trump has done. And he's a populist candidate. Even though he's on the Republican ticket, he's really more of a populist. He's a man of the people. And that's why so many people showed up that didn't even normally vote to vote for President Trump.
Yep. I truly believe that what we're watching is a miracle in the fact of, again, that J.D. Vance will be able to be prepared for the presidency by Donald J. Trump. And this is going to be Trump's Republican Party for a long, long time. There's no doubt in my mind. And the other thing that I love that is gone now is the Obama legacy. It's been wiped out. See, it's been wiped out. And this guarantees it, that I'm not going to say anything disparaging about Mike Pence, okay? I'm not going to. But I am going to tell you that there is an energy level in J.D. Vance as a vice president that there wasn't with Mike Pence. So the tendency for a vice president to be more of a figurehead and kind of cut ribbons at mall openings, whatever, that's not going to be the case with J.D. Vance. He's going to be involved in policy. He's going to be involved in leadership. And I don't like the term attack dog, but I do believe that J.D. Vance is going to be one other voice that's going to continue to be a nightmare to the legacy media in being able to destroy false arguments. He's gifted, and I'm very grateful that that we got him. And it is evident to me that he's going to be very powerful. You have any closing remarks about JD?
Well, he's fast on his feet, and that's important, and he comes back with just amazing comebacks. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you know what I love about him? He's got President Trump's back, and that's so important. And so, he needs somebody like that, President Trump. He's been fighting this battle a lot of times by himself. And so I'm really thankful that he's got a running mate that is going to have his back.
Yeah, I just feel it feels clean. There's integrity in there. And I feel like we're in for a great time. Now, at number 6 in our countdown, are we really already at number 6 here? I'm glad, because some of these are going to take more comments than the ones we've done before. This was to be a key turning point in the campaign, and on many levels. And we're going to run the video right now, and you'll be able to guess what our number 6 thing we are most thankful for in 2024's campaign. Here it is.
All those things we need to do: child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on.
I mean, I'm sitting here. That was shocking.
Yeah.
But that was a turning point. You comment first. I'm busy laughing here.
What I love is President Trump's expressions. He's such an you always know what the man is thinking. He's looking over like, what's going on? So, and I think all the American people this was the moment when what was done in darkness came to light. A lot of people were denying the cognitive ability of the president, and then it came out there for the whole world to see. And that was when a huge domino fell. Whether it was planned or not, there's a lot of debate about that, but it really kind of put the Democrat camp into chaos, and they were all arguing amongst each other. And again, I think this was the prayers of the people of God that were praying, confusion, the enemy's camp. And, there was other people that were jockeying for the position, and they didn't know how they were going to do it. And it ultimately catapulted Kamala, who was unelected, didn't go through any of the process, and here she comes out. And all of a sudden, in a few weeks, we're meant to believe that everybody's behind Kamala Harris when she was a very unpopular candidate. We just saw how Tulsi Gabbard knocked her out in that last runaround for the president. And then now all of a sudden she emerges as this, populist. No, not at all. The American people didn't like her. And that became very evident in the election. But they tried to make it out like she was this, beloved person that everybody was getting behind. And Mario, this show, you were calling it out. I was calling it out. There wasn't a lot of people that were given the type of feedback. You can go back and watch. I mean, we even did an episode, if you recall, where you said when they replaced Biden, they were going to replace Biden. And that was groundbreaking at the time because no one really knew if that was going to happen. But you felt the Lord had put that on your heart. You were right. We discussed it, and it ended up happening.
One of the things that I enjoyed in our interchange is how we'll both see something from a different perspective. Like, it isn't that we're disagreeing. It's just simply that you'll have an insight that I'll overlook, or I'll get something that you might not be aware of. I was rejoicing when they picked Kamala Harris because unlike everybody else, I knew she was going to lose. I said, look, Biden has an excuse. He has dementia. She has no excuse. And her word salads are self-inflicted. She's literally unlikable, in my opinion, and I don't mean this in a mean way, not very intelligent. And constant drumbeat that she accomplished this and accomplished that. I'm from California. Worse than that, I'm from San Francisco. And I knew that she had been constantly protected from accountability during her entire career. But there's a book called The Peter Principle, which says that people tend to be promoted to their highest level of incompetence. And the gist of the book is, don't accept a promotion on a level of responsibility that is above your capability, because your climb up the ladder to success, there's a certain point where if you stay where you are, you're guaranteed to be successful. But when you move up beyond what your pay grade, that's when the Peter Principle kicks in. And that was her.
That's right.
Once she went into a national campaign and the scrutiny of all that was going to happen, it became very clear how many years she had gotten away with something. So I don't want to make light of Biden's condition. There's no way that that's something I'm rejoicing in. But what I'm saying is the humor of it was what all the media was doing. You remember that pathetic moment when Jill Biden said, "You answered all the questions." Right. And I said, if you talk about a participation trophy, that was it. But we look back on it, and it qualifies as number 6 because it was the turning point in the campaign. That's and right. It put the Democrats in a horrible position. They had to it was a coronation of her, Kamala Harris, and everybody was saying, oh, she's popular. Oh, she's this. I said, nope, this dog won't hunt. This is not going to happen. The day of reckoning is coming. What she is will come to the surface. And $1.6 billion. Talk about dodging a bullet, okay?
Right.
We know what kind of a president she would have been, adding trillions to the debt and getting nothing out of it. She took $1.6 billion, threw it down a rat hole, couldn't even get Oprah to endorse her without a $2.5 million payola. Wow. Everybody, she wrote a check for all of it. She was busing people into her rallies. From the very get-go, I knew that debate with Trump was a turning point. And it was so devastating. Remember how, and go ahead, you're getting me all worked up here, so I'm going to let you talk.
Well,
you remember how all the media was saying it's a disaster. This debate was a disaster. I mean, It was like for a moment, transparency hit all the liars on The View, on CNN, on MSNBC, in print media, everywhere was saying it's a disaster. And That's right. Truly was. Go ahead.
It was. I mean, even right now, a lot of these legacy media is both the networks, the locals, all of them are having financial problems because no one's watching them. And the reason why no one's watching them is because their credibility is in the tank. You know, you have Kamala Harris. She's awkward. She would do that weird laugh and she couldn't answer anything. Yeah, the cackle. She couldn't answer anything without a teleprompter. So she did not make the connection with the folks because she wasn't answering any questions. She didn't do any press conferences. I mean, here was Donald Trump. He was out there in all these podcasts and answering every single question that came in and engaging the folks and being warm and shaking hands. She was like an elite, and people felt that about her, and they saw her, and she was prideful. And so I think people are done with that. I don't think that they want to have a person like that representing them. Yeah.
Okay, we're now to number 5. And we're not going to tell you what it is. We want you to see the video and see if you can guess what our number 5 we're most grateful for and thankful to God of what happened in 2024's presidential campaign. Roll the tape.
Historic.
I believe, yeah, Robert F. Kennedy won several of the battleground states for Donald Trump in the election. Well, I'm going to let you go first. Why was Robert F. Kennedy's defection from the Democratic Party and his public endorsement of Donald Trump, why did it make it to number 5 on our list of things we're grateful for in 2024? Go ahead.
Such a big deal. If you look at the people around President Trump, even with Elon, and we're going to get to some of these in a minute here, but these were former Democrats, Mario. These were folks that had their whole life voted Democrat. You know, my grandma, she loved John F. Kennedy, and she was a Democrat. Before she passed away, I think she started becoming more conservative. But remember, there was an era in the Democrat Party that it was Kennedy's party. The party's been hijacked. The party has gone far left radical to now where they're basically communists, so the party has shifted from being for the, apparently at one point it was for the people, but now it's not, it's totally shifted. So, RFK coming out, it represents that Kennedy-esque, that legacy. And a lot of folks remember John F. Kennedy, and, he ultimately gave his life, I believe, for what he stood for. And, this same deep state that we talk about in many of our broadcasts. And so this represented the Kennedys coming over and supporting President Trump, and that era of that Democrat Party, those folks like the Elon Musk, like the Tulsi Gabbards, like the RFKs that are now saying, look, this isn't my party anymore. I need to stand behind this man because he represents my values more than the Democrat Party. That to me is a huge deal.
Mothers care about what their children eat. And they agree with Robert Kennedy that the food industry is poisoning the kids. They agree. Now, these aren't necessarily Republican women, but once again, the base that was under the Republican tent, this genius, this incredible Donald Trump, once again added another weapon to the arsenal and immediately opened up the Republican Party to a group of people that weren't in the party. How weird is it that suddenly Trump is the candidate of free speech? Trump is the candidate of uncovering the vaccine corruption, taking on Big Pharma. Trump is the candidate of exposing wokeness among our generals and our intelligence community. And so now it's becoming evident that this base of Donald Trump is too big to rig. That's what I saw Robert Kennedy represented it. We've just reached that tipping point where this election is too big to rig, because there were many, many people that were going to vote for Robert Kennedy Jr. as an independent. And his voice added to the Trump train. What an addition. Amazing. Amazing.
And think about this too. The celebrities that you mentioned, they had to be bought, and their influence has diminished. Folks are kind of tired of these elite celebrities that they know are, basically just front people for a lot, like you said, Big Pharma, some of these things. So they didn't care about Beyonce or Taylor Swift or, that's pretty bad. I mean, Taylor Swift's got a pretty big following, and they didn't even care about that. They cared about folks like RFK. Like you said, the moms that say, hey, why is it that a lot of the food in America isn't even sold around the world because other countries have banned it? Why is it that, you look at the beach in you look at the beaches in 1967, a picture of that, most folks were in pretty good shape. You look now, obesity has become a major factor. There's all kinds of heart issues, and, America's health is not good. And so something has to change. And so bringing in RFK, this is going to be so disruptive on so many levels. And I think people have been more informed. The internet has helped with that. Sites like X have helped with that. Free speech platforms like Rumble, shows like this that have gone around the mainstream corporate media. And so now we have a more educated population, and people are like, you know what? We need change. We cannot continue going down this path. And that's what RFK. And so all these dominoes falling, these were answers to prayer. And these were huge. And I think that moment when he walked out, Mario, that was a defining moment. That was historic,
It really was. And that's when I believe it became too big to rig. Now, this is where you would almost become feeling sorry for the Kamala campaign.
Right.
Now that we get to the next one, we're coming up on number 4. And it's almost, you're almost tempted to feel pity for her and what this meant. So we're going to look at it, and let's look at this video right now and see if you can guess what number 4 of what we're most thankful for in 2024 is. Let's look at it right now.
The rocket company is the only reason we can now send America astronauts into space. Take over, Elijah.
You have got to be kidding. All the Democratic operatives are going, you have got to be kidding. Elon Musk is traveling with Trump and campaigning for him, the wealthiest man in the world. Come on. I'm lobbing you a softball pitch over the plate at 50 miles an hour. What did you think when Elon Musk appeared at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania? What went through your mind?
It's over. And remember, you and I, we covered, remember when they did that, it was like the X Spaces, and they did that interview. And that was a moment too. We didn't include in our top 10, but that was big. And they broke the internet with that interview. Remember that? I mean, it was like more people listened than ever before, millions and millions of people. That was when it's like, okay, they're putting these polls out, but all you got to do is look at the viewership of this interview. There's millions of people. I mean, all over the world, but especially here in the United States that were listening. So him coming out is just so big, Mario, because, not only does he have the resources financially, and he did, by the way, undergird some very important things during the election cycle where he held different contests and things like that, and helped support President Trump. And that goes against the Soros money because they seem to have unlimited resources, but this was a counter to that. And I know some folks don't like Elon Musk, and I understand that, but what I'm saying is a counter to that Soros, all those was it Act Blue and all those different organizations, the NGOs. Here comes the richest man in the world, which, by the way, bought Twitter, turned it into X, which is the #1 news site in all of the world. That's where folks are getting their news from, which, by the way, if you don't have an X account, you should probably get on there because we post the show on there, by the way. But, there's a lot of conversations that are going on that are on X that aren't on some of these other social media outlets that censor. And it's for the most part, it's censorship free. So that him coming over, him availing X, him doing the interview, him helping undergird financially, and just the support of Elon Musk was a massive domino. And I think at that point, Mario, that's where, like you said, it almost became unfair for the Democrats, but it wasn't because they had to be too big to rig. And we knew that there was all kinds of nefarious plans. So that countered that.
Well, I have a couple more comments about it. Elon Musk, to me, this Thanksgiving is like that second helping of pumpkin pie with whipped cream on it and a fresh cup of coffee. Yeah. I already had the one, already had the RFK slice of pie. But then came the Elon Musk, and I'm sitting there thinking, God in his holy heaven is having mercy on the United States by breaking the Billionaires Club, which was so leftist, so hateful toward the church. And it seemed like there was this impenetrable wall that we couldn't break, and suddenly it was over. And you brought up, and we got to talk about this. So come on back here a second, Todd. I'm not saying you left. I just wanted you on screen. And we want to thank our producer, Matt, for putting up with us because Matt Fuller is just amazing the way he's been able to do all these videos. And sometimes we don't give him things until the last minute. And he fights being angry with us, and he's so patient. We love him. But you mentioned the interview that Trump did with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
All right. The legacy media was 90% of the media that's out there was a state-sponsored media, totally in the tank for Kamala, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
So if you were to look at ABC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, and whoever else I'm leaving out, they're their aggregate audience, this is Mario Murillo's sudden audience chart. Whenever Kamala was on all of them at the same time being commented, this is what her audience was, aggregate audience. All right. And this is what happened when Trump was on with Elon Musk. That's what happened worldwide.
Yep.
For free, Trump had 10 times the audience that Kamala ever had. And that is an amazing thing. And here's the other thing is, there was these posts where they're talking about a conversation that Elon Musk had with someone, and they were talking about Twitter. And the guy said, you know what? You ought to buy Twitter. And Elon Musk said, how much does it cost? Well, that
Right.
same guy just was on the internet with Elon Musk again. And he said, you ought to buy MSNBC.
Oh, boy.
Okay, now we're backing up on a hit and run victim if he buys MSNBC. But in the same interchange, years apart, the guy asked Musk, well, you ought to buy MSNBC. And his response is, how much does it cost?
Yep.
So stay tuned. I would believe anything now. Well,
Absolutely.
Any comment before we move on?
Well, he's an innovator. I mean, if you think about it with NASA and their budgets and everything, for whatever reason, the space program is in shambles, that they're having to now rely on Elon Musk to get people from the space station. I mean, that just speaks volumes about the state of our country. So I think things are going to be changing, folks. And we need innovators, and we need people that are willing to, I was telling my wife, because we were on the freeway and our car got hit by a rock. If you ever had that happen, it's awful. So the windshield, started shattering. And, I said, it's amazing. For years, we've had glass windshields and we've had tires that are made of rubber that can burst. What if an innovator came in and had some different type of tire, different type of glass, or, but the thing is we've been at the status quo for so long. And that's the legacy media is the status quo for so long. We need disruptors. We need reformers. And that's what President Trump is doing. He's putting together a cabinet of reformers. And by the way, that's what's happening in the church as we speak too, is that the Lord is raising up reformers for such a time as this. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. And so everything that we're discussing today, it actually has a spiritual significance.
And just when you think it couldn't have gotten worse for Democrats, here is number 3 of what we're most thankful for in 2024. Let's roll it right now.
It's a creepy, corrupt business, and the media, to a large extent, acts as a propaganda arm for the Democratic Party.
It's not even believable.
Yeah, it's bizarre to watch, and most young people, I think, are aware of it. I think most boomers still, unfortunately, read the newspapers and believe in CNN.
But it's getting younger. Let me
Yes.
tell you, it's getting for us, for a conservative.
Yes.
And I consider myself a person.
It's the internet. It's because the internet's giving
so.
people information that they're not getting from anywhere else. And they like the very fine people hoax, the Russiagate hoax, all these different things that they've done. They tried to pin on you. That's like it's a clear distortion of what you actually said.
The bloodbath hoax.
Yeah,
I was talking about the auto industry.
Yes.
It's a bloodbath because Japan and China are taking our auto. And I said, it's a bloodbath. They said, he used the word bloodbath.
He said, if you don't win,
somebody,
it's going to be a bloodbath because they're going to take over.
That's exactly
what you
terrible
said.
thing they do.
But that's the problem with propagandists, because they take things out of context, and ultimately what they do is they diminish their own credibility because people don't want to listen to them anymore because they see that they've done that and they recognize what's going on and they feel insulted. Their intelligence is getting
look
insulted.
At the ratings.
There it is.
Yeah, I wish we could spend more time on this.
It's a creepy, corrupt business.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It is. And that bore repeating, by the way. Don't edit that out, Matt. We like that mistake. That was great.
That's right.
It is a creepy, corrupt business. The media was assaulted, and it was a moment that will live on in American history when millions of Americans, free of the bias, censorship, algorithms, were able to hear Donald Trump and Joe Rogan, a respected voice to millions and millions of people. Amazing. You got 1 minute, and then we got to move on. Go.
having conversations like this. I mean, this is what people want to hear is real talk. He's answering questions. And it just blew their whole fake propaganda story out. Mario, I don't think they're going to be able to put the cat back in the bag on this. I think that we're in a whole new era because people want truth and they know what's going on. And so it's going to be real hard for them to ever regain control that they once had with the legacy media. It's going to be a very tough road for them. Now, I pray that the Republicans that have the House, the Senate, and everything right now do what's right and help President Trump in his agenda. They need to do that.
We have 2 left. And let's see if you can guess what number 2 is. It was something that there are no words for, how much jubilation we all felt when this happened. Let's roll it.
What they went to that venue tonight hoping to see and witness was a historic election of Kamala Harris to the presidency, was the end of the Trump era as they knew it. And so we don't know the outcome yet, but that is not what they are receiving. And they are being told to go home and wait till tomorrow.
And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Swifties. She had the Beehive. You could not have run a better campaign.
In Western Europe and in the UK and in the Middle East, people are waking up to this.
Oh, and they are.
I've gotten people from Western Europe who are extraordinarily alarmed and terrified.
May I reiterate, there are 2 of the 7 swing states that have been called by NBC News right now, which is Georgia and North Carolina. None of the other 5 states have been called at this point. You can see this is the battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the so-called blue wall. None of those states called by NBC News. In the swing state of Pennsylvania, NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump. It presents an insurmountable future here for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic ticket. Let's watch as Trump takes the stage in Palm Beach, Florida.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Boy, it's going to be a real tough speech for her.
Wow. I mean, the election of Donald Trump was too big to rig. And it was just a total amazing, indescribable victory. I thought when he won against Hillary, it felt awesome. This was on this is another level altogether. What did you think that moment when you saw it hit 270? Because I wasn't leaving. Yeah.
It was nothing short of a miracle. Every odd was stacked against us from a worldly perspective. The only thing that we had was the prayers of the saints and overcoming this massive, deeply entrenched. We knew that there was all these plans, things we can't talk about on some of these platforms, but we knew they were doing all these things. And here comes President Trump. And he even said, wow, look what happened. And that's what everybody felt. And it is a huge miracle. And I'm so thankful for the pastors that came out that weekend and said it was a miracle. And for the people that weren't afraid to say what God did, because he did a miracle. And we are still in awe. And you know what? Listen, there's a lot of challenges right now. We're going to cover them all in the show, even next week. But here's the thing. If it would have gone the other way, we'd be in a whole nother world. And everybody knows that. And so even though we have some really big challenges and we report on those things, the fact of the matter is what God did was a miracle. And we need to continue to give him thanks for what he did.
We sure do. And wouldn't we love to talk more about the feeling we had when Donald Trump won? And we are now down to number one. Number one, what could possibly be something we are more grateful for than Donald Trump winning the presidency? Well, here it is right now. We'll roll it.
Drum roll.
I mean, there are no words because everything else happened on a fairly human level. This one was divine.
Yes.
I mean, you and I know for him to move his head a quarter of an inch at the moment that that bullet was fired, it's not possible. And Trump himself said that he felt a large hand push him to the ground. And he said he knew that God saved his life. But again, the attempted assassination and the failure of them killing Donald Trump. Think of what the world would have looked like if Trump had been killed. What would the world have looked like? If ever we were grateful for anything as Americans, that right there. And that's when I knew he was going to win. Didn't you?
That's right.
It's like, okay, God saved his life. What? And then Kamala's going to win? No, it made no sense to me. But go ahead, comment. This is a big deal right here, son.
Huge deal. I'll never forget, and I know you'll never forget, and our viewers will never forget where they were when that happened. I was actually at Alan DiDio's church. It was a Saturday night. I was just about to get in the pulpit, and my phone started going crazy, and people were like, President Trump has been shot. And we didn't know at that moment what was going to happen. But, I've talked to folks that were alive during the Kennedy assassination. It's like 9/11. You never forget. That's one of those moments. And what God did in sparing his life. And when the man gets up in that iconic photo where he's like, fight, fight, fight. Who does that? Who would be able in that moment? Most people would be thinking about, oh my gosh, am I going to die? I mean, thinking about themselves. He was thinking about, only Donald Trump, honestly, that I can think of would have the understanding to get up and to show the folks that he's okay and to put his fists in the air. And Mario, like you said, that was the moment we knew, why would God intervene in such a way only to allow him to lose? And so we all need to be thankful because, we'd be in a totally different America right now.
There's no doubt in my mind that it was an answer to prayer, that God divinely protected this man, that the prayer that God answered in sparing Donald Trump's life was a prayer for America and God's act of mercy on the United States, saying, we're going to give you another chance. And everything else that we showed in this top 10 list hinges on this right here, Trump staying alive. Because if he wasn't alive, none of the other would have mattered. And we came so close. And it gives me chills to think about what the world would have looked like if that bullet had taken his life. What would have happened in the United States?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Todd.
War. I think we would have possibly that could have been that moment where we would have maybe gone into a civil war type scenario, or at least a lot of civil unrest. I don't think folks would have taken that, and it would have just taken us down a very dark reality. And, like you said, the split second, him turning his head, if he didn't do it, the shooter could have been much farther away and hit him. So the fact is he was really close in the range, and just everything that happened. And the fact that man was not able to hit President Trump was a divine intervention. And I know that very well, Mario, because I had a divine intervention in my life when I got stabbed 9 times, So anybody that's had a near-death experience or understands that, you've been in a situation like that, you'll never forget it. And I believe that deeply impacted the president's life and heart. And I think that he's drawn closer to God as a result. And we're just continuing to pray that the Lord uses that for his glory, and what was meant for evil is turned around for good,
Beloved, we have all been through a lot. I got 59 seconds to wrap this all up. And we want to say to you that when you're gathered around your table, having your Thanksgiving, how long has it been since America's had this much to thank God for?
That's right.
This has been a year of intervention. This has been a year of God exposing evil. This has been a year of the church, which was silent and afraid and deceived into thinking that Trump was too harsh or not right. All of these questions have been answered emphatically, and we are blessed. We are a blessed nation. We are a blessed people. And we say, thank you, God. With all of our heart, we thank you for what you've done in this nation. And we're also going to tell you We're going to be here for you every Wednesday. You got a few seconds, Todd? Take us out.
I'm thankful for you, Lord. We're thankful for what you've done, and we believe that there's still so much. In fact, the best is yet to come.